future second round pick, along with a future second round pick swap to the Houston Rockets, essentially freeing up around about 15 million in cap plus looks. Well, sorry, shapes. Cutting around 15 million in tax and cap space. Celtics are still over the second apron. They're going to create a $4 million trade exception that, if I'm right, no longer carries over 12 months, so it'll expire at the end of the season, meaning they can use it by tomorrow. Two open roster spots now. I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Wayne Breezy of Bleacher Report. What's popping, Wayne?
What's going on, man? Trade deadline is officially here. It'll end tomorrow. You knew the Celtics were going to do something. Like, you know what I mean? You knew they were going to do something. The question was, what were they going to do? And it was funny. I was texting one of my Celtics groups. I was texting my bros. I was like, "Yo, Jaden Springer is getting minutes. He's going to be traded." Like, I had a feeling. Now, I thought we were going to try to get add an additional player, maybe try to get a guy like Yabusele back here. There was a report that went out by NBC Boston saying stuff like that. So I was hoping we would get another, energetic player back here to provide energy, points off the bench, things like that, and size, right? But Jaden Springer had happened to be the expendable, and the Celtics saved themselves some money in the long run, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get it from that perspective. Like, $15 million is $15 million. It brings you down. What's the tax bill? It goes from like 65 down to 50 mil. It's no chump change, especially when Springer was only earning four, which shows you that like the level of tax that they're paying on these dudes. But I was with you, man. I feel like I was always brought up to never give anything away for free. Like, if it's if it's worth being paid for, then you should be paid for it. I think that over the last week or two, they've really been building up Springer's trade value. He's had some great games, some great minutes, really showcased that upside that we were all excited about this time last year when the Celtics went and got him from Philadelphia. And now all of a sudden we're giving him away, but we're also giving away a second round pick. And then you're getting back a trade. It just feels like a lot for nothing in return. Obviously, 15 million is not nothing in return, but
Yeah.
I feel like, as you said, Yabusele was a guy that a couple of teams have reportedly interested in. I'm not sure whether the the Sixers would have been down with getting Springer back, especially after picking up Quinton Grimes yesterday. But that type of guy, right? Like a vet minimum dude that could have gave you a little bit of anything, right? I saw Javante Green's name floated out there, blah, blah, blah. So to just get an open roster spot now is like, what are they going to do with it now? There's some free agents out there that I've been looking at personally. O'Shea Brissett's a guy that could come back. He's in the G League right now.
Mhm.
Lamar Stevens was with the Celtics last season, another hard-nosed wing defender. He's in the G League right now. Toscano Anderson is in the G League right now, hard-nosed wing defender. There's ways to build out those at least one of those two roster spots without really giving up too much money. But at the same time, man, I'm just not a fan of getting zero back in return, especially when you're attaching a pick to a guy that was swung a couple of games for you on your West Coast road trip.
It's tough. It's tough. You saw the upside with him, right? You saw that there was potentially going to be like a defensive prowl. He can get you some baskets if you just play him and give him the minutes. And I think the most important thing that he brought to the Boston Celtics was energy, right? Whenever we were lacking energy, you put him out there and it was just like, whoo, nice little burst. And then the Celtics got going. And you're right, he did help swing a couple of games, especially on the road trip. So unfortunately, he's no longer going to be a Boston Celtic, and I wish Jaden Springer nothing but the best, man. Best of luck to him wherever it is he does, wherever where he's going out to Houston. Hope everything works out for him out there. But I think that's what's confusing to me too. Like you got nothing, zero in return. A future second round pick. I mean, what do we do with those second round picks anyway? Like at the
It's
end, so it's like I'm not frustrated because I trust Brad when it comes to crunching numbers, finding players, all that stuff. I trust it, but coming at heading into the All Star break, you're hoping that coming out of the All Star break, the Celtics are revived, refreshed, and maybe look a little bit new. And you brought up a couple of players, and I wouldn't mind O'Shea Brissett taking up one of those roster spots. He's a champion. He helped us win. You can get good minutes from him. Somebody has to come in here and they got to get somebody to come in here and just do a little of the gritty work.
And that's what it feels like right now. Two open roster spots. It feels like, well, just this trade was part one, and now we're waiting for that other shoe to drop. And whether that's a trade or whether that's just a free agency pickup, a buyout market guy, doesn't really matter how they do it, but it definitely feels like there's going to be a new face coming in. And look, I get it. This is an end of bench dude that was getting some minutes to build some value. We didn't really see him much through the majority of the season. So him being there or not being there doesn't really move the needle either way. What moves the needle for me is, as you said, they gave up a second round pick and then they done a pick swap. So you're now down a pick, down a player, you shave off 15 million, but you've now got to sign a guy that might come in at 2 million, but then it's going to cost you eight. So now you've only saved seven. Again, it's 7 mil. But what happens if you round out both spots? It starts to just level itself out. I know that we've got someone on the comments saying, "What about Lonnie Walker?" Lonnie's over in Europe right now. I think the value you need to buy him out of his contract. I think it's around about 450K you have to pay to get him out of that deal in
So
Europe.
you still spending money.
And then you need to sign him to a contract, which should be prorated. So, vet minimum, maybe you pay him a mil, you pay 4 mil in taxes overall. Like, but if Lonnie wasn't good enough to earn a spot on this roster during training camp, why is he good enough to earn a spot on the roster now? He's not like he's blowing up in Europe. He's struggled for the most part. He isn't having the best time out there. And that to me then says, well, Springer was making an impact. So if you were just going to go and get Lonnie and pay
You
whatever you need to pay, you may as well have just kept Springer.
just kept Springer, yeah.
So it is tough. Like I said, I think there's another move to be made here. There's two open spots now. Again, that $4 million trade exception could come in big. Maybe the Celtics just sit around and wait for a multi-team deal and take back 4 million in salary that helps them pick up an asset along the way, or maybe they know there might be trade discussions going on and they needed to open that salary up. Who knows? But at the moment, the way it sits, and there's a lot of cap stuff that I don't know because of all this new CBA and all this second apron restrictions. But it's a tough one, man. I'm finding it really tough to kind of see who's available that would be one better than Springer and two be able to give you reliable minutes if they're needed as a depth piece.
Yeah, I think at this moment we just kind of like sit back, relax, and wait to see what happens. I mean, our team is intact. The question is those two open roster spots, and when it comes to the money, it gets a little bit tricky for me. So I'm not the money expert when it
Me
comes to the
neither.
cap. So I'm not even gonna dip or dap into it. All I know is we're saving about 15, $16 million in taxes and things like that. And for the Boston Celtics, that's always a great thing. You know what I mean? But we still need to be the team to compete against all the other teams, that are going to be looking to make a push at after the All-Star break. And that's what it comes down to. And I get that the Boston Celtics are hot right now. What they won two, three straight, I believe they won three straight,
Four
right?
straight after
Four
last night,
straight, might have
baby.
been four straight. Yep, we beat Cleveland, and so it's just like um, they got to continue to find ways to keep that up. And every now and then they're going to need that that one little gritty, energetic piece off the bench that can provide a spark. The question is, whoever we do fill that spot with, it has to be somebody that Joe Mazzulla trusts, right? Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, he won't see the floor.
And this is always my issue. Like, I know whenever you talk about end of bench guys, the common response or the generic response is, well, they won't play anyway. And in the playoffs, they're just going to be glued to the bench. That's best case scenario every time. I think we can all agree. If you get a 14th or 15th guy, you don't want to see them on the floor in the playoffs. But injuries happen. And when you think about it from that standpoint, injuries do happen. And hopefully they don't occur during the postseason. But if they do, those 14th or 15th guys suddenly get pushed into a rotation spot, or they're on the fringe where you might need them for a few minutes on a couple of games in a series or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden, now whoever you've picked up needs to be able to actually be capable of playing legitimate minutes. I see Torrey Craig's names thrown around here a bunch. He played 9 games for the Bulls like this season, nine. And Chicago's been better than expected. They've actually
hmm
been quite good this year.
hmm
But if you can't get consistent playing time in Chicago with the way that roster's structured, how on earth can you be trusted to then get consistent minutes with the Celtics if they need to lean on you? Hopefully, it doesn't happen. But the point of having these guys is they're an insurance policy. I want my insurance policy to be capable of paying out.
Yeah, that's why I said you mentioned the key word. The key word is trust. And if you're speaking about all these players that could potentially be available, if they're not cracking the rotation now, they're definitely not going to be because when you get down to the nitty gritty of playoff runs, that rotation is going to shrink anyway. And the only way you might see a crack in the rotation, you just mentioned it, injury. And we're not wishing injury. We know but it happens. It's basketball, right? And so, like, I guess we just be, what's the word? Reactive at the moment. Or do we keep? I think we fill one spot, keep one spot open for something, for a scenario like that. I think that would be the Brad thing to do.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Like going into the second half of the season with 14, keeping that flexibility is fine. But who's 14? Do you convert a Drew Peterson from Maine? Do you convert JD Davison? Is there somebody you've already got your eye on? I personally have been very big on bringing back O'Shea Brissett. He knows the system, knows the players. As you said, it's that energy guy. And it's not like you always need it to be offensive, kind of microwave scoring, Monte Ellis type bench production. Sometimes you need that energy boost on the defensive end. You need a chaos creator, somebody that's going to come in and just do some wild shit, throw himself on the floor, crash them boards, like, just bully you a little bit. Make sure that when you leave, there's some bumps and bruises. You're like, man, O'Shea got minutes, and look at the state of me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that brings value, a lot of value. And I think that we saw what O'Shea brought to that rotation last season. He hasn't been picked up by another team, kind of bet on himself like during the summer, didn't really work out the way he wanted. If I'm Brad, that's the first person I'm picking up the phone to.
Absolutely. That's the person that's familiar. That's the person with the championship. That's the person that has ties with the players. That's the person that has the rapport with the players. That's the person that understands what his roles and responsibilities would be if he was brought back with Coach Joe Mazzulla. That is the person. That's the first person. And I think other teams know that. So, the Celtics met it. They got to do their due diligence. Don't sit there, beat around the bush. You got the spot, figure out the money situation, bring him in here, get him up to Celtic speed, like get him in shape, Celtic shape, football, basketball shape. Like get him into that shape, that mode, so that way he's ready when his number is called. And the best way to get in shape is running and playing defense. Like that's the thing. And if that's what they can get from him right now until he's able to get a shot or two off, I say go for it, man. I think that's the piece that you want to bring back. Bring that familiar piece back. Now, there's other players out there. You mentioned several players right here on this show that I wasn't even thinking about, but we'll see what happens. Like you said, I don't think this is the end all be all. We still got another day to go. I think Brad Stevens is still looking to make a move. We just don't know what it's going to be. Nothing blockbuster, but definitely something to add to the pie.
Yeah, I look at it like this. We're not looking to go shopping for no lingerie. We're just looking for granny panties. That's all we're looking for right now. Just some granny panties.
Hanes or
And
Fruit of the Looms. That's what it is. Like, yeah, pick your choice.
I want to address this real quick, and then I've got one more point I want to make, and we'll let everybody get up out of here. So, problem with Brissies is an offensive
That's
liability.
true.
I'd pass, takes V over him. This kind of goes back to the point I was just making, where you don't always need a Monta Ellis type guy, somebody that's going to come off the bench and put up points in a hurry. Pritchard does that. Hauser, when he's on fire, can do that. Again, to me, there's value in being a defensive event maker, just some chaos creator that's going to do the little things within the game, dive on the floor, rebound hard, crash the glass, rotate, play with high energy, and do a lot on defense. Because, and I wrote about this in today's newsletter. So there's about 200 people watching on Twitter. Sign up to the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. You'll get the email in about 35 minutes because this delayed me. But for me, the Celtics' identity remains on defense. Like they're at their best when they're locked in defensively. That's when their offense seems to click the most. So having a guy that can come in and just give you that energetic jolt, the way that Springer did during that West Coast road trip, is way more important to me
Bingo.
than having someone like Svi, who, yeah, he can get you some buckets, but he's just a turnstile on defense. Same reason as I wasn't all in on Lonnie. And then the other point I just want to make is, for anyone that thinks they need another big, there's already 5 on the roster. I'd much sooner trade away Tillman to find that big than
Yeah.
bring in a big and have 6 bigs on a 15-man roster when you've only got 14 spots filled. It's just too much for me.
Yeah, if we were to get anything, it would definitely be another 3-point shooter, because since that's our identity. Like, we're going to shoot the three, and I don't think they're just hanging around there. So, uh, in my opinion, you're not going to go for another big. And I like the bigs. I like the rotation, and I like what Joe is doing as far as matchups. Every one of our bigs has a weakness, but he's. I feel like Missoula is learning how to play to their strengths a lot. Even though the ones that are liabilities on the defense, they can't switch quick enough. They can't get out to the perimeter. They can't defend. For some reason, He's doing a really good job at mismatching these guys up and matching them up to where they are working, and you're not seeing those liabilities really stand out. Yeah, they still struggle. Like Keta's still going to struggle out there on the perimeter. But look, I like what we have. That to me, that's not broke. There's nobody you're going to be able to really go out there and get unless you make a blockbuster trade. And I don't want to get rid of anybody. The Celtics team they're the champions, and we need to find a way to run it back. And so we run it back by adding some probably defense, energy, intensity on the coming off the bench.
Yeah, and then you just hope they don't need to play. I mean, it's
Right.
that simple. We're going to pick you up. We're going to trust that you can give us what you're meant to give us if we need you, but hopefully we don't need you. And then you just roll with it as from there. 14 for me. Someone's put in the comments, yeah, it's 14th slot needs to be filled as per league rules. So there will be a pickup. Whether that's someone being converted from main or not remains to be seen. Just want to check the notifications in case something's happened while we're talking, but it hasn't. So with that, I mean, that's my thoughts on the matter. It's not like it's a huge trade, but it's one that I felt needed addressing. Anything you need to add, Way?
Nah, man, this is pretty solid. Again, we're still scratching our head just from the value from the trade, right? It's like the second round pick for a second round pick. Plus, we gave up a player just to free up a lot of money. I think that's what has us scratching our heads. It's not that we don't agree with it or disagree with it. We're just kind of like, all right, wait. We'll wait. We're gonna have to figure out and wait until see what happens, what manifests from the first move. Like this is a Brad plays chess, so this is a setup move for another move. And so we'll see what happens. Like you said, we're going to fill that 14 spot very soon. Question is, who will it be?
And the question is, could you have got better in a trade? I think
Ooh,
that's where could you have got better talent in return by trading
ooh.
Springer for talent? Or are you going to pick up somebody that nobody realized and then all of a sudden they become an important part, yada, yada, yada. We'll find out. Again, 14th man in the rotation. All you do is hope they don't need to play. Everybody, make sure you're signing up to the YouTube channel, the Celtics Chronicle. Sign up to the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. Go and show Wayne some love over on Twitter. Wayne's out here popping off, dude. He's over on Bleacher Report these days, crushing it with his Niners and Celtics coverage. Where can they find you, Wayne?
At the Wayne Breezy. It just put the at and the in front of my name, and that's pretty much where I am everywhere. And I appreciate the opportunity, man. Love talking Celtics. No one knows Celtics better than Adam Taylor. Like
Oh man, you're too
I'm
kind.
talking the ins, the outs, the nooks, the crannies, everything Celtics. This is the man. And when he sends me an invite, I don't even shower. I jump on. I came straight from the gym. I jump straight on, and we're here. Thank you, Adam.
Dude, I literally just woke up from a nap and it was the first thing that came up. I'm like, dude, man, like I've just had a nap. I had an early morning today. Here we are, man. It's always a pleasure, bro. Everybody make sure to show Wayne some love. Again, show that newsletter some love. I'm aiming for 3,000 subs by December. We're up to 1,250. We're getting there, but we're not even halfway yet. Show me some love. Peace out, everybody. Boom. That went well, man.